Rather, and it's you're obviously moved by this observation, because it's not just a matter of saying here's some factual history and some artifacts that just become a list of facts that are dispassionate. It's a matter of observing this and saying there's moral implications here.
That's right.
It goes right to the soul of consciousness and having choice, and being able to observe historically what choices were made, and understanding now here I live, today, and I can learn from this. Mm-hmm. I can understand it and learn from it and make choices for my life today based on what happened all these years ago. And rather than it just being metaphor abstractly from a book that was written so long ago, instead you're saying we uncover it. This is now factual, and we assembled these pieces of evidence, look at the lives of these individuals, and now we have to ask ourselves the question: what does this mean to me today?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because you're in these places, you're experiencing these places, and yet if you look at the history of Christianity, where is Herod the Great today? I mean, he's known as Herod the Great, but where is his posterity? Where is his kingdom? And yet Christianity continues to move forward and continues to move on. And to me, that's one of the great witnesses that we have. I remember a few years ago visiting Ephesus, and I've been there many times, but you're in this huge, huge theater that seats 25,000 people. And you're looking out over what used to be the harbor of this great city that Paul came to evangelize. And it's that same theater where the Ephesians were chanting for 2 hours, "Great is Diana, goddess of the Ephesians." Mm-hmm. And Paul was almost killed, was almost dragged there and killed. If his friends didn't take him into safety, he was almost dragged there and killed. And you think, here we are, 2,000 years later, and the theater is still there.
Right.
But where is Diana, goddess of the Ephesians?
Right. And
where is Christianity today? And what is happening as a result of all of that? So the power of the gospel, the power of Jesus Christ, and the transforming power of what happened on the cross continues to change the lives of people today, millions of people today around the planet, and has been doing that for centuries. And to me, that's powerful. While we were there in that theater, by the way, it was very interesting because we were just finished singing some songs ourselves, and all of a sudden we heard this voice from the stage of the theater, and there was a lone man standing down there singing.
Wow.
A solo a cappella, and it was an amazing sound that, these theaters are built for sound. They didn't have any microphones back then. And we were listening to this song being sung, and it was the song, "You can have all this world, but give me Jesus." And the person who made that song famous was the person that was singing the song down there.
Wow.
And it was just an amazing thing to just experience that there.
Wow.
at that site.
That is amazing. And speaking of the cross, there's another artifact of a nail that you have, I think, a model of in one of the cases. Can you talk about that?
Yes. So the cross was not something that was just invented for Christ's crucifixion. It was something that was used very effectively by the Romans for a very long period of time. And that particular method of execution was used to suppress rebellion and to give an example to others of what would take place. It was a very cruel form of death. It was a very slow death. And of course, we've know the process today. Nobody died because of the wounds. Nobody died because of the nails. They died because of the length of time and the strength that would wax and wane away from them with time, and they couldn't lift themselves up to breathe in that position, and so after a while they would die of asphyxiation. Mm-hmm. And so for Jesus to die within the same day that he was crucified was quite remarkable. And for his companions, of course, that were on either side of the cross, the two thieves, they didn't die. Mm-hmm. And so that's why their legs were broken, so that it could all be finished on the preparation day before the Sabbath came. So you have this whole situation that's very interesting. Now, the only evidence we have from Jerusalem for a crucified individual, we have a number of historical evidences. We have a great deal of written evidence about this, not only in the Gospels but in other places as well. Mm-hmm. But what we found in 1968, and I say we as archaeologists, was a bone box in a small area of Jerusalem that was being developed, Givat HaMikbar. There in that particular location, they found a tomb and a bone box of a young man by the name of Yehohanan. Mm-hmm. And in this bone box was ankle bones with a nail penetrating through them. Mm. That is now in the Israel Museum. Mm-hmm. And we have a replica here, but it is the first evidence of an actual person who has been crucified in antiquity. And it gives us an idea at least how that person might have been crucified and what position that person might have held on the cross and how the configuration of the legs would have been and the bones. So again, very dramatic, mm-hmm. very real, and something that would have been excruciating for anyone to go through at that time.
Yeah. So and I'm sorry, what year was that discovered?
In 1968.
So it's again very recent.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you obviously have this extraordinary academic mind, left brain, very well developed, analytical. You go through all, the work that you've done, in your career, which is, I think, remarkable. The scope of it, very inspiring. But before we started, you asked if we could have a prayer. So that leads to a practice in your life and an inspiration. How do you experience that inspiration personally?
To me, as a scientist and as a Christian, those are not two different spheres. They all go together. And sometimes I think in our world today we separate them, and we talk about faith over here. We compartmentalize and we bifurcate different areas and so forth. That I think is a false dichotomy, and I think the two fit very well together. The Judeo-Christian faith is a faith that is rooted in history. It's rooted in something that is tangible and that can be seen and that can be investigated and can be looked at from an intellectual perspective. I have a colleague here who's a physicist who even argues that perhaps science as we know it today would not have developed if it wasn't for this Judeo-Christian mindset of investigation and of curiosity and trying to find answers to the bigger questions about God and how God organized this universe and how God created this universe and this planet and so forth. So, and he makes a very compelling argument for that, I think. How do you come with that kind of a thinking out of some of the other world religions? It may not be as great. So for me personally, my faith is very much tied into this, and it's strengthened. Mm-hmm. It's strengthened because when I travel to the Middle East, and I have friends that are there and that I work with, but also when I handle these artifacts, when I handle these things, I'm not only handling history, I'm handling a kind of a sacred trust that continues to be moved through time. Mm-hmm. The vessels that we have here in this museum are vessels in time. Mm-hmm. So Isaiah has this beautiful passage in Isaiah 64 verse 8 where he speaks about God as our Father, mm-hmm. and as our potter, and molding us with the clay and shaping us. And just as we have these objects that people made and used over the centuries, they were vessels that carried on this message from generation to generation. And I feel, in a sense, compelled that we also have an obligation to carry on this message from generation to generation. We have been called to be vessels to carry on what God has given through His Word to this generation, despite the challenges that we face today, intellectually and in terms of those challenges. We have a relevant, total truth to present to the world that is beautiful and that I think really will make a difference in the lives of individuals when they understand how these all connect together. It's a truth, I think, that is complete, and that the Bible presents that is not bifurcated and compartmentalized, that provides evidence for a faith that can be intellectually stimulating as well as spiritually fulfilling.
Well, I could tell you this was an extremely fulfilling conversation, and you brought to light so many things that I find, completely fascinating and compelling all at the same time. And I appreciate you, spending time with us here today and sharing your wisdom.
Well, it's been a privilege, and I appreciate this series, and thank you for the time.
Thank you. We are now complete with bonus episode 10. Thanks for taking this extra journey with me with Christ Revealed, the history, the evidence, the inspiration. You still have one last opportunity right now to own Christ Revealed and support our movement. You can get it for 50% off. There's a variety of packages right here. Pick the one that's right for you. Revisit this content over and over again. I really hope you'll share it with other people to help inspire them. And again, thank you so much for the honor of being able to take this journey with you. That's it for this particular interview. Thanks for joining me. Really excited to take this ongoing journey with you as we keep bringing more content. If you haven't already, you really should subscribe to this channel. There's a lot of phenomenal content coming down the road into the future that you'll want to know about. Leave a comment down here. I think people would love to hear from you, and then you can hear from them too. If you liked it, go ahead and give a like. It only takes half a second, and share this with people that you care about. The world needs more light in it right now. So thanks for being with me. Hope to connect with you again soon.